Good evening, everybody. Welcome back. Will you please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance and a moment of silence for Diane Pavlak, retired bus driver, and Carol Tokars, retired special education teacher. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic which it
stands, one nation, under God,
indivisible,
with liberty
and justice for all. Thank you. Public comment on agenda items. Ladies and gentlemen, we are about to listen to public comment. Although state law does not require us to hold a public comment period, we have chosen to do so because we believe it is crucial for us to hear from the community members about their concerns and issues. The board is here to listen. The public comment period is not designated to be a debate or dialogue. Please do not expect the board members to respond to your concerns and questions tonight. We take your concerns and questions seriously and want to have sufficient time to process and research issues if need be. We will have a proper staff member get back to you as appropriate. I also want to point out that under state and federal privacy laws, we are unable to address any comments or questions about specific students or school personnel. We would ask you to go through your appropriate administrative channels. A total of 30 minutes at the beginning of each board meeting is set aside to allow the public for public comment only, on agenda items only, Public comment at the beginning of the meeting is limited only to the items in the agenda. Person who wish to participate in the public comment portion of the period are asked to provide their name and the specific agenda item about which they wish to speak. Individual comments on agenda items is limited to 3 minutes and are welcomed. If you wish to address items related to our school district that are not on tonight's agenda, another comment period is provided at the end of the meeting for that purpose. In the interest of civility and respect for different points of view, clapping, booing, or any disturbances or disruption during either public comment period is not permitted. And with that being said, Alberta, are there any public comments on agenda items?
Yes, Mr. Lumia, I'll begin them now. This comment is from George Adams regarding agenda item 4.01. In regards to agenda item 4.01, public comments on agenda items, I feel that it is critical for these comments to be made in person and spoken by the concerned individual. I feel that being forced to express concerns in an email and not having the opportunity to address the board in person diminishes the ability to communicate any comment. It is unclear to me why these past several meetings have now been changed to virtual, other than what I heard was disagreement by attendees not to wear masks. I assume that these meetings will resort back to in-person soon, and it will appear to me and many others that perhaps certain board members have an agenda that they do not want the parents and the public to express their feelings and opinions. The next comment is from Gina Knapp regarding the support of letter to oppose COVID-19 vaccine mandate. I am a parent of 2 children in the Wappinger Central School District. I support the letter that the Wappinger Board of Ed Legislative Action Committee wrote in opposition to adding the COVID-19 vaccine as a requirement for students to attend public school. I will not give this vaccine to my children and am prepared to homeschool if needed. The next comment is from Linda Simone regarding support of letter opposing COVID-19 vaccine mandate. I am a grandmother of 2 children in the Wappinger Central School District. I support the letter which opposes adding the COVID-19 vaccine to the requirements to attend public school. I do not want my grandchildren receiving this vaccine. The next comment is from Holland Murphy regarding the COVID-19 vaccine K-8. I do not want my children to be subjected to this experimental vaccine. It has not been out long enough to prove that long-term side effects won't happen. It is our parental right to do whatever is necessary in the protection of our children. It is also our right to deny such action. Please do not subject our children to this vaccine since there is a high recovery rate. Thank you. The next comment is from Melinda Rose Vasquez regarding the COVID-19 vaccine and mask usage. Hello, I wanted to let you all know that I do not want my daughter to get the COVID-19 vaccine. The vaccine being pushed is not the FDA approved version, and it has not been tested or out long enough to know the long-term side effects. The vaccine has already resulted in over 35,000 deaths or injuries per the CDC. As a parent, it is my right to do what I find best for my child. If you mandate it, I will pull her from school and homeschool her or move out of state. Furthermore, masks do not protect against the coronavirus. Our healthy children should not be forced to wear masks all day or at all at school. If you want to have your child wear them, then fine, but do not force all healthy children to be masked. It's ridiculous. The next comment is from Shona Falcone regarding COVID-19 vaccine. With Pfizer vaccine approval for 5 through 11 being right around the corner, do you expect this to be required for this age group to attend school? I would like to know so that I can explore alternative solutions for my daughter. By no means will my children receive this vaccine. The next comment is from Chrissy Dooley regarding the COVID vaccine mandate. The school board must approve the letter to Governor Hochul stating that the COVID vaccine is a parent's choice and not the decision of the government or school board. My 2 daughters attend Sheaf, and if the vaccine becomes mandatory, I will homeschool. My sister began homeschooling her 2 children last month. They attended Sheaf. If you attempt to force my hand by requiring that I hold a master's degree in education in order to homeschool, I will hire a teacher. If I have to leave New York, then I am prepared to do so. You should realize by now that no vaccine incentive will change my mind. Our district has not done a good job of preparing for possible scenarios, even though this pandemic is nearly 2 years old. I ask that you try harder to think about multiple scenarios so that parents are educated in advance about possible outcomes. The next comment is from Victoria Silva Hayes regarding the vaccine mandate. I would like the board to know our family will be signing the letter to stop the vaccine mandate for our daughter. We will absolutely be pulling our child out of the district if this vaccine is mandated. I would also like to mention that I am part of the PTA and continue to receive feedback from parents who would like more opportunities for our children this year. The next comment is from Holland Murphy regarding the COVID-19 vaccine, K-8. I wanted to let you all know that I do not want my children to get the COVID-19 vaccine. The vaccine being pushed is not the FDA approved version, and it has not been tested or out long enough to know the long-term side effects. The vaccine has already resulted in over 35,000 deaths or injuries per the CDC. As a parent, it is my right to do what I find best for my child. If you mandate it, I will pull her from school and homeschool them. Mask apparently won't work if we need to be vaccinated to stop that as well. Thank you. The next comment is from CC Byrne regarding the mandatory COVID vaccination. The COVID-19 infection death rate for people ages 0 to 19 is 0.0027%, which translates to a survival rate for the same age group of 99.9973%. If we, as parents, cannot make a decision as to what gets injected into our own children's bodies, then what will be next? Our government utilizing our schools as police and in some cases doctors' offices with their mobile vaccination vans and pop-up clinics is appalling. The school is here to educate our children, not to impose restrictions and non-scientific mandates. Our district follows these mask mandates put forward by the government, and we have daily emails about case after case. The mandates for masking do not work, and the mandate for this shot is only going to create more division and force more children out of the public school system. I do not feel it's the government's job to mandate a vaccination for anything, especially not this latest virus. Please forward your letter asking the governor to not mandate this shot for grades K to 12. Your reasons are clear. Thank you. The next comment is from Lori Waring regarding the vaccine mandate. It is criminal to inject children with a vaccine that's still in testing mode. We will not know what these vaccine effects will be on the long term in children. Children have strong immunities and will easily overcome this. It's absolutely criminal to even think these children or young adults should have to take this EAO vaccine. There are now more and more side effects from these vaccines. Last reported from the CDC, 35,000 injuries and deaths. Stop using the children as shields for you adults. Adults, you wear a mask. Children should not have to wear a mask. Next comment is from Jesse Knapp. Support of letter opposing COVID-19 vaccine mandate. I'm a parent of 2 children in the Wappinger Central School District. I support the letter opposing adding the COVID-19 vaccine mandate to attend school. The next comment is from Maria Rausch regarding the COVID-19 vaccination mandate for K-12 grades. We, as parents and citizens of New York, do not want mandated COVID-19 vaccination for K-12 students. It has not been fully and properly tested. It's still only an emergency vaccine with still uncertain results and frequent breakthroughs. The next comment is from Jen DeVito regarding masking and COVID vaccine mandates. There is more than enough scientific evidence and data to show that children are not adversely affected by COVID-19, nor so they spread it. More children are having heart issues due to complications from the virus. If there is a risk, you need to allow parents to make the choice. The school does not have the right to force someone's medical choices. Other countries have stopped the administration of the COVID vaccine to children based on medical complications. Why is the US not doing the same thing? Why are you ignoring the science? The next comment is from Gina Buccio, opposition of COVID-19 vaccine mandate. I am in support of vaccine choice for parents and can get many other parents from the district to sign a petition who also feel the same way. The next comment is from John Ellsworth, agenda item 9.05. In regards to the letter addressed to the governor of New York stating that we as parents reserve the right to make the decision to have our children vaccinated or not. I just want to add my voice to the many who feel that this letter should be approved by the board, keeping in mind that a mandate to risk the health of young children by vaccinating them from a virus that from state-provided results to the American Academy of Pediatrics states that as of 10/14/21, the number of cases of children that tested positive for COVID only 0.1% to 2.0% required hospitalization. Of the reporting provided, only 0.00% to 0.03% resulted in death. It appears as well that cases are still being reported from those whom have been vaccinated. I imagine then a routine booster shot will be mandated at some point for everyone. Please stop this mandate. The next comment is from Maria Moyo del Giudice regarding the vaccination mandate. I am in support of agenda 9.05. The next comment is from Liz Zeich regarding 9.05. Good evening. Thank you for continuing to allow parents and taxpayers in WCSD the opportunity to exercise free speech through public comment. I'm writing to let you know that I fully support your letter written to Governor Hochul regarding vaccine mandates. You are correct when you state, quote, any decision regarding vaccinating a child against COVID-19 should be a parental decision in consultation with the family doctor, close quote. Period. Schools should continue to focus on education and parents should continue to focus on the health of their children. We do not co-parent with the government. Thank you. The next comment is from Annetta Lacert regarding the COVID immunization for school enrollment. I strongly urge you all to sign the letter to Governor Hochul to oppose any legislation that would require COVID-19 vaccination for school-aged children to attend school in New York State. Children are not affected by this virus. They have less than 1% chance of dying from this virus. I will be pulling my children out of school if this vaccine is mandated to attend school. Do the right thing and voice your opposition to this potential government overreach by signing this letter. The next comment is from Tony Maresco. Warp speed developed vaccines. Coercing children to be injected with warp speed developed vaccines for a virus with a 99.9961% survival rate in children is unethical. Vaccine manufacturers may have immunity from liability for adverse effects, parentheses, myocardial, autoimmune disorders, deaths, close parentheses, of students injected with the mRNA vaccine. Are you sure those who comprise the school board are so immune? The next comment is from George de Guillermo. Topic is mandates. We should reject any mandates from county, state, or federal government in regard to mask and COVID vaccines. Children under the age of 20 have a survival rate of 99.9973% from COVID infection. To mandate a vaccine with little to no research on young children would be a science experiment on our children. The next comment is from Gisela Peters. The topic is vaccine mandates. I would like to express my support for the letter to Governor Hochul. I'm a parent of 3 elementary age children in the WCSD. I strongly oppose vaccine mandates in order to attend public schools. I have removed my children from public schools and currently homeschooling them. A major reason is because of mask and vaccine mandates. Our children have the right to a public education without being forced to get a vaccine that they do not need, as they are in an extremely low-risk population. Please continue to take a stance on vaccine mandates. This should be a personal choice between parents and their pediatricians, not parents and government. The next comment is from Dr. Gordon Cook regarding agenda item 9.05. I asked the board to reject the proposed legislative action committee letter to the governor regarding vaccinations. It is disheartening and disturbing to see the school district, supposedly an academic institution, rejecting the scientific method and peer review process in favor of uniformed and ignorant denial of evidence and fact. Even the most critical of European drug regulatory bodies that has raised concerns over only one of the several available vaccines has also concluded that the benefits far outweigh the potential, parentheses, and as yet unconfirmed, close parentheses, concerns and risks. This letter is especially concerning given our district's current situation. COVID is currently spreading through every school building in the district at a faster rate than the general public in our area. Although the spread of COVID in the general public is currently declining slowly, it is increasing in the school population. Ketchum High School is currently experiencing spread of COVID at 7 times the rate of the general public, according to data provided by the district. Vaccination is the best tool we have available to protect our children and end this pandemic. It's the fastest way to return to normal schooling without masks, without social distancing, without contact tracing. The risk of vaccines are much more remote than the risk of COVID and far outweighed by the benefits. I urge the school board to reject this letter. This comment is from Laura Magnus regarding the vaccine mandate letter. I too support this letter. I will not subject my children to this vaccine. Our body, our choice. You will see a mass exit from this district if and when this occurs. Your job is to advocate for our children, stand up for our kids, or resign today. That's the end of public comment.
Thank you for all those comments. 5.01, School Board Recognition Week. I guess the superintendent, you got the floor.
Excuse me, President Lumia.
Yes, sir. John.
Is there any opportunity for board members to make comments?
No.
No, that's not on the agenda this evening.
Comments on the from the individuals.
We skipped 4.02.
Oh, I'm sorry. Well, let me go back. You're 100% right. John, I had some comments myself. So Dr. Bunk, my apologies. It's 4.02 recognition comments from Board of Education. John, you got the floor since you put it up by mistake.
Thank you. I just wanted to quickly say that we're getting into the season where there are multiple invitations that we as board members receive from faculty members that are advisors to honor societies. And I want to offer just blanketly my congratulations to all of our students who have had high levels of academic achievement in subjects that have honor societies. I know we had one last week. We've got one, I believe this Thursday. I want to congratulate the students and thank the advisors for working with the honor societies throughout the district. Thank you.
Any other comments? Yeah, Jim, Mr. Spencer.
Thank you. Thank you, President Lumia. I just wanted to say congratulations. I attended on the 13th. John Jay Senior High School had their induction ceremony for Mu Alpha Theta National Honor Society in mathematics, and I congratulate all the inductees.
Any other comments? I'll make some comments. As Mr. Spencer just pointed out, last Wednesday, first of all, not all board members can possibly attend all these meetings. Some work, so obviously which prevents them from coming. But last Wednesday, Trustee Killen, Spencer, McFarland, and Johnson and I attended the induction of 53 John Jay students into the prestigious Mu Alpha Theta Math Honor Society. Congratulations to all the students as well as the teachers for their hard work. I've attended many induction ceremonies over the 14 years that I've been on the board. I've given many speeches, but none compared to the inspirational speech given by Patricia Nardone, a teacher at John Jay High School. She was really inspirational. So thank you, Patricia, for such a fantastic speech. Even though I was not able to attend the football game between RCK and John Jay, according to Trustee McFarland, both teams played a well-fought game. Congratulations to John Jay High School for their win. Last Friday, Dr. Bunk, Dr. Carwell, myself, as well as Mrs. Pedro, met with members of the Hindu Samaj Board to discuss their proposal to provide scholarships to our students. It was determined they will provide our guidance counselors with the process and the procedure they will follow to award the scholarships. The significant scholarships will be presented to our students on Senior Awards Night. I want to thank Dr. Sharaf for asking the district to have such a meeting. It was very productive, and I was very pleased with the meeting. I don't know if Dr. Bunk wants to add anything to that. Welcome if he wants to add anything. Dr. Bunk?
Thank you, President Lumia. Absolutely. I would like to thank Hindu Samaj for their generous offer to provide scholarships for our students. Greatly appreciated. It was an excellent meeting. I had an opportunity to attend the John Jay Roy C. Ketchum football game on Friday evening. It was a tremendous environment. It was a hard-fought game. Both teams showed a tremendous amount of determination and grit. The game came right down to the end, and I want to commend both teams and coaching staffs for all of their work. It was a great game, and I also want to thank all of the individuals who came out from John Jay and Roy C. Ketchum. It was a tremendous sign of the school spirit that exists within Wappinger. So that's all I'd like to comment on as far as that's concerned.
Bunk, and by the way, Dr. Bunk flipped the coin.
I did, yes, and it was not. It was,
admit.
yeah, someone was going to accuse me that since I was a former principal at John Jay High School, that I would be bringing a two-headed coin. I did not, and as a matter of fact,
I saw the coin, Dr. Bunk.
Ketchum actually won the
two-headed.
And Ketchum already actually won the coin toss. So I want to thank the athletics department in both schools for the opportunity to do the coin toss. I enjoyed it.
Are there any other comments from the board? Thank you. Now, 5.01, School Board Recognition Week. Dr. Bunk, it's all yours.
Thank you, President Lumia, Vice President Kellen, members of the Board of Education, and the Wappinger Central School District community. In honor of School Board Recognition Week, which is October 18th through the 22nd, I would like to thank and commend all 9 board members of the Wappinger Central School District Board of Education for their service to our district and school community. As many are aware, Board of Education members are elected officials, but they receive no financial compensation for the important work that they perform on behalf of our district and school community as board members. The amount of effort and time and the critical decisions made by a school board is paramount to the success of a school district. At this time, I would like to share a brief slide presentation regarding the process utilized by our students in Mr. Lucas Bliss's technology and manufacturing class at Roy C. Ketchum High School, used to develop plaques for all board members. And before I virtually present each of you with a plaque in honor of your service and dedication, I would like to make you aware of the process that was utilized by Mr. Bliss. So as you see here, there's an example of one of the plaques which I will display. As we are meeting virtual this evening, I will virtually present each plaque to each board member in honor and recognition of all of their work. And these plaques will be available. Please contact Ms. Pedro at the district office. There is, once the template was set, students used the VCarve software to program the CNC machine. One of the students, as they supervised the CNC router. Once engraved, the students cut down the plaque to size. You see one of the plaques there. And now, Mr. Okima, let's hit the video. Thank you, Mr. Lokima. Once sanded and stained, the students applied the final products. And now we have the actual plaques. So here is one. This happens to be for President Lumia. So what I'm going to do at this point in time, it is my honor and my sincere thanks to Mr. Bliss, to our students at Roy C. Ketchum High School for developing these very fine plaques to be given to each of our 9 board members. And I want to thank them all for their dedication, their service, and their passion on behalf of our students in our school district. So first, Board President John Lumia. Vice President Peggy Kelland. Trustee Carrie Cahill. Trustee Marie Johnson. Trustee Michael McFarland. Trustee John Morgan. Trustee Keith Odoms. Trustee Eddie Slowshower. And Trustee James Spencer. So once again, on behalf of our school district and our students, we would like to thank you for all of your work that's done on behalf of our students and our district. And we wish you the happiest School Board Recognition Week. Thank you.
Thank you. Good job. Excellent.
Thank you, and thank you to Mr. Bliss and all the students.
Yes, I will personally write to Mr. Bliss. Excellent. Excellent.
I
job.
gotta say, that's a better shop class than I had back in my day. And I wish I got to take
Way to do
Mr.
it by
Bliss's
chisel.
class.
In those days, we do it by chisel. With the-
Yeah,
A
it
knife.
was chisel.
Chisel
A rock.
And you were stoned, John.
Yeah.
That was good. I like that process.
Excellent job.
Wait till you see these. These are excellent. Very, very well done.
I'm gonna-
Thank you. Good
RCK,
job.
thank you,
Thank-
Mr.
thank
Bliss,
you.
thank you to all the
Thank you.
students.
Thank you all. Thank you.
All right, thank you. 6.01.
I'm speechless. It's shocking.
I don't believe
Wow.
that for 1 minute, Eddie.
Wow. Wow. Thank you.
Never speechless.
Eddie's never speechless, ever. If the moment that he's speechless, I'm just gonna keep quiet for the rest of the board meeting. Anyway, 6.01.
Wow, we can get a twofer.
You're right, Jim. 6.01 budget calendar presentation. I guess that's the next item, correct? I hope. It is.
Yes.
Dr. Bunk.
Okay, so we have the 2022-2023 budget process. Today is obviously October the 18th of 2021. So we can move to the next slide, please. Kristen Crandall will be here with me. She's on the presentation if needed. She is the financial guru, our assistant superintendent for finance and business development. Members of the senior staff administration, you see them there. Obviously, District Clerk Pedro and the Secretary to the Superintendent and members of our Board of Education. We can move on to the next slide, please. So Superintendent's Forums, a budget conversation. November 1st, right around the corner, location to be determined at 5:30. February 7th, 2022 will be another conversation, location to be determined, 5:30. And then February the 28th will be the Spanish version at 5:30 p.m. Once again, the budget vote this year is May 17th of 2022. So what are the first steps? Official work begins on the 2022-2023 budget after the approval of the budget by the Board of Education. How is this determined? We get preliminary equipment requests. We take a look at new staffing, curriculum proposals, in-service, potential summer work. Compilation and review the next steps, refer to the Board of Education goals when building the budget, allow for the influence of the mission statement and our core values, administrative goals accounted for when building the budget, long-term financial planning based on available information and estimates, awareness of community expectations of the Wappinger Central School District schools, and we evaluate the overall economic climate, both locally and nationally. We also utilize the Board of Education meetings for community input, information sharing with the Board of Education. It allows for administration to build a budget component by component review through the Board of Education study sessions as needed. We include pertinent revenue funding sources in the general fund, budget discussions, tax cap, federal stimulus dollars, New York State projections, alternative funding sources, and such. Discussion on possible referendums to be added to the ballot. Other topics as needed. Questions from the Board of Education and community are welcome and encouraged as we move through the process. We talked about the superintendent forums. This year, I am planning to attend local town and village town board meetings to gather budget feedback and do presentations. This is the first time, to my knowledge, that this has happened, but I believe, and the board concurs, that it's important for us to get out in the community and make the community aware of what our budget proposal encompasses and why we feel whatever we present is one that is needed for our community and our schools. We will have a budget email to gather community data and feedback, information sharing process with local municipalities through quarterly meetings. Those are occurring and will continue to, and information sharing process within the community, the state mandated budget public hearing. So we build the components of the budget. You know what they are: general support, instruction, transportation, and undistributed. We utilize the Board of Education and community feedback to refine the budget document. And as I stated last year, we want to hear from the community. What do you value in our educational system? What do you feel that we need to provide to our students? and to our families. We need to know your thoughts. Respond to information is provided by New York State and other funding sources. Provide pertinent information to the board and community that's clear and concise. And I will tell you that we will continuously work with the administrative team to refine data and estimates used. The final step will be to evaluate and reflect on the budgetary process. So upcoming budget dates right around the corner. Superintendent Forum Budget Conversation November 1st. January 10th, General Support and Instruction Budget. We'll present that to the Board of Education. February the 7th, we will have a Superintendent Forum, a budget conversation. Transportation and Undistributed Budget presentation to the Board. Vehicle Replacement Plan presentation to the Board. February the 28th, Superintendent Forum, a budget conversation in Spanish. April 18th is the deadline for Board of Education approval of the 22-23 budget. And then on May 9th, we will have a community forum, which is the state mandated public hearing on the budget. Budget vote will be on May 17th. Historical data on the WCSD school budgets. Assistant Superintendent Crandall, are you there?
Yes, sir.
Can you take it from here?
Sure. So this slide provides links to our past roadshow presentations that were done for both the community as well as recorded and put on the website. These are also provided to each of our school buildings. As the superintendent had indicated, we are going to be looking to do things a bit different this year. The board will still have the opportunity as well as the community to reach out to us with any questions. I know Ms. Johnson likes to say that she asks lots of questions, as does many of the other board members. However, there's never a question that is too silly. So it is the administration's responsibility to put the budget together and for us to review it with the board. So as you'll also notice in the budget calendar that is up for approval this evening, there are something called study sessions. So in the past, the budget has always been additional discussion. So now it'll kind of be driven by the board to provide us with what questions do you have that we can bring forward. A lot of times it's easier to have that information in advance and not have to be able to get into that detail on our feet. However, having these study sessions may help to bring up more questions from the board or other areas that they would like us to look into. Thank you.
You're muted,
That
John.
concludes the
Are there
presentation.
any questions from the board?
If I could just indicate, we need to be and intend to be as transparent as possible as we move through this budget process. In order for the community to understand what we're proposing, we need to provide them with the information so they know where these monies are going. We will work to ensure that that transpires.
I think it's very important that this is just that you're going to be going to meetings of the various community meetings. That's extremely important because very often when you have those meetings at the different schools, one or two people show up. So I think going to those particular meetings is extremely important so the community knows exactly what the heck the board is doing and what your proposed budget is doing. Thank you very much for the presentation. And with that being said, 6.02, approval of the budget development calendar for 2022.
Ms. Johnson, I'm sorry, Ms.
Giselle?
Deluia, did Ms. Johnson have a question?
Marie,
I
did you have a question?
I had a comment. I was going to say, first of all, thank you for always answering my questions, Ms. Crandall. And I'm actually excited about this new process this year because yes, I do ask the questions, but I like to think I'm asking the questions that the public is thinking and sometimes can't always remember to get across in our emails. So I am looking forward to it. And I can't wait to find out when you go to these town halls, Dr. Bonk, because I believe I might be following you to be that person in the audience asking those questions.
That would be great. We look to attend the town and village board meetings sometime between the adoption of the budget and the budget vote. I will be working with the elected officials in our respective municipalities as to when we can schedule that. But that hopefully will be our goal. Hopefully we can fit everybody in. I'm hopeful that we can fit everybody in by the time the budget is adopted and the budget vote. If not, we may have to begin a little earlier with a proposal that we think could be the final proposal. But again, I'm hopeful that it will be between that date in April and the budget vote in May. I have my calendar available at that time to be wherever I need to be to explain exactly what we're proposing, because the community needs to understand.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Any other questions? Peggy?
I'd also like to thank you both for a very clear PowerPoint, nice and simple, and with just the facts. Thank you very much.
Any other
And
comments?
I appreciate also your glossary that you sent with all the terms explained for all of us. Thank you.
That's very good. You're right. Excellent. The glossary was exceptional. Very good.
Mhm.
Anyway, 6.02, approval of the budget development calendar for 2022. Peggy?
Resolved that the Board of Education does hereby approve the budget development calendar for the 2022 school district budget vote and board member election as recommended by the Assistant Superintendent of Finance and Business Development to the Superintendent of Schools.
Motion?
So moved.
Mary,
Second.
second, Michael McFarland. All those in favor?
Aye.
Carrie? Carrie?
Aye.
Unanimous. All right, 6.03, approval of special education plan. I guess it would be Mr. Zip.
That would be me. Thank you, President Lumia, Superintendent Bonk, and the rest of the Board of Education. This is a, no, not a yearly, it's an every 3-year process. The last time the board approved the special education plan was at the beginning of the 18-19 school year. We all know what's occurred over the last 3 years, half of that time, and clearly the rest of this year, we've been knee deep in a global pandemic. So I can let you know that as far as the state's concerned, there haven't been any major policy changes with respect to special education over the last 3 years. I think since the pandemic hit in March in 2020, the goal has been to maintain what provisions have been provided, what kind of programs we have in district, and to ensure that students receive the most appropriate education that they're entitled to, given the circumstances. So unlike the yearly report the board gets in June, where we go into some specifics, this plan is a little bit more broadly based and speaks in broader terms. So for the most part, and the reason why we're not going through the plan right now, page by page, it's fairly consistent with what we had before. As far as the programs we have, there have not been any major changes to the programs. As we've indicated at the June meeting, some of the things we have done over the last several years prior to the adoption of the 18-19 plan was the increase in the ICT programs K-1 across the district. We did that, I think, in the 16-17 school year. This year, we finally finished the self-contained program build out at Fishkill Elementary School. So we have a Southern feeder program for students with high needs at Fishkill Elementary School, which is consistent with the feeder pattern to Van Wyck and John Jay. And as something else I indicated, typically in our June presentations over the last probably 4 to 5 years, and Trustee Johnson can correct me, we're once again, engaging in a fairly significant process to improve reading instruction with our Orton Gillingham workshops. I think currently we have about 26 teachers or so, mostly K-6, but they do run the K-12, K-12 continuum, who are all going through their 60-hour course, and then many of them are going to continue on for other levels of certification. So broadly speaking, the plan pretty much is what was approved back in 18-19 for 18 to school year 21. There have been some improvements clearly over the course of the years, but unlike the June special education presentation, where we'll get into much more specific items on a year-to-year basis, this is more of a broadly painted picture. So very little changes globally to the plan within the school district. And with that, I'll just leave it open for questions from board trustees.
Marie?
Of course, me. First of all, yes, Mr. Zip, I have to say thank you very much. I know you've been working diligently to try and broaden the programs on reading help in our district with the Orton Gilliam. And we really are making strides there. I mean, I know every day it's one day closer to a better day. And this is definitely, it's kind of like the long-term goal of special ed is like, when I look at this plan, when I look at you, this is the long-term, and then the yearly is like, what did get done this year off of the long-term goal? And
Absolutely.
I just wanted to thank you very much for it.
Yeah, no, thank you so much. Appreciate that.
Peggy?
I'd like to also thank you, Mr. Zip, for the nice glossary that you provided for all of us so that we know exactly what's being being referred to. Thank you.
Great, thank you. Thank you.
Any other questions? Just my curiosity, Mr. Zip, which schools have classes that deals with autistic students?
That would be, well, here's the thing, you know, every school has students who are on the spectrum. You know, so you have what's called level 1, and that's another new term for what we used to call high functioning autism. We have students in the district who are high functioning autism who are not classified, students with high functioning autism who may have a Section 504 plan, and then students with high functioning autism that will probably be in an integrated co-taught setting. For students on the autism spectrum who are what's considered a level 2 or level 3, and that's usually comes with some level of cognitive impairment. They can be in one of two programs. They can be in our self-contained programs, more of our traditional self-contained programs, and they would be the programs at Oak, Evans, Fishkill, and Myers. And for students who are much more challenged within the autism spectrum, that also includes what's called a pervasive developmental disability, PDD, which is once again kind of an umbrella term. And they would be at the communications programs at Vassar and Kinry. So Vassar Kinry programs for those students with much more challenging needs would go there. And those students typically then go into Wappins Junior High School into their program. And then from there into the high school into one of the 4 level programs, either John Jay or RCK High School. So that's,
Thank you.
it can be one of many places depending upon need.
They need it, okay, and the level, of course, okay, thank you. Are there any other questions by any board member? Okay, with that being said, Peggy?
Resolved that upon the recommendation of the superintendent, the Board of Education hereby adopts the Wappinger Central School District 2021-2024 Special Education Plan as mandated by Commissioners Regulations Part 200.2C.
Motion?
So
Marie?
moved.
And Mike McFarland, second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Hey, Carrie?
Aye.
Okay. Consent agenda resolution.
Okay.
Does anybody want to remove anything from the consent agenda? Okay, resolve that the Board of Education does hereby approve the following consent agenda items as stated. 7.2 and addendum, 7.03, 7.04, 7.05, 7.06, 7.07, 7.08, 7.09, 7.10. Motion?
So moved.
Peggy and Mrs. Marie Johnson, all those in favor?
Aye.
Unanimous.
Aye.
Unanimous.
Aye.
7.02.
Hmm?
I'm sorry.
No,
No,
8.01.
I know. I just have to go through 8.01. Okay. Building tours. First of all, I'd like to thank both Marie Johnson and Mr. McFarland for taking the extra step to do building tours. Just and then after the board went through all the buildings, they wanted to go through in greater detail. So I'd like to thank both of them for taking all the time to do that. And with that being said, Marie, it's all yours. And John and Mike, it's all yours too.
Well, I want to first of all thank Mr. McFarland for, working with my schedule because it's been kind of crazy the last couple of weeks, but I really wanted to thank him. We did enjoy our time going through the different buildings. And I would just like to thank all of the staff, all the administration, and especially the students, because that, I have to say, I think was the best part for me, is to see all those faces in the schools yet again. On to the next one, Mr. Lokima. Yeah, I guess. And we also got to see the universal pre-K, which was really great, which is at Fishkill Plains Elementary, Kinry Road Elementary, Myers Corner, and Vassar Road. Those schools are really embracing the pre-K. I guess I felt it was really great to see those classrooms, and some of them had the kids in it, and to see those little faces just getting their first start at the big kids school was really, really nice. Then we go into the solar part of it, which we have here. Solar panels, we're getting those on a lot of our different buildings. Oops, I just lost my notes here. Part of the district's energy performance project was solar. I, for one, was very excited to go back and see it actually starting to take shape. I've been on the capital improvement committee for several years now. And I actually started the day that they started the bidding process for the solar panels. So it was kind of coming to fruition. Also in this energy performance projects, I know we also got some LED lighting that we got to see. A lot of the hallways were a lot brighter because they've gotten a lot of that done. And also the outside lights, I know at RCK and a couple of the other schools. So that was great. And also kitchen equipment. The next slide, and Mike, jump in if you see anything or want to make any extra comments. The next one is some different stuff. While on one of our buildings that was built in 1910, most of the buildings in our district built in the 50s and 60s. So we've got a lot of older buildings that have a lot of
maintenance,
different tiredness. They've been tired for quite a while. And we've been lucky enough that our community has supported some capital projects, and that our facilities and operations team and Mr. Broas, especially with his crew, have worked tirelessly to maintain and try and keep up so that we don't have extra repairs. So I want to give a shout out to all of facilities and operations because they do an amazing job. I think if they didn't do some of the preventive maintenance that they do, we would be looking at a lot more issues in our schools. So, I mean, it's been great what they've done. Some of these pictures are some floors that have been redone, some new heating and stuff that's been put into some of the classrooms, and some new windows. And it's definitely made a huge difference. When you walk through some of these hallways now, I know some of them I walk through, and then I walked through them recently, and they're night and day difference, totally night and day difference. On the next slide, this is something Miss Kellen and I were very excited to see, and Mr. Broas was very kind in taking us separately later on, because on our building tours we didn't get a chance. That, ladies and gentlemen, is our new documents room, our storage for documents that we have to do properly. And we were lucky to have our in-house team do most of the work on this. And it was, I love history, so this was just really great for me to see, and we've transformed it. I remember walking in that building, and I can't even tell you, it was not the best shaped building. And what they have done, both the documents and the garages, it was a night and day difference as far as I was concerned, from what I've seen. And the next slide is something that the facilities and operations staff, the parent groups, I believe, bought the bleachers at John Jay for the baseball field. That was not purchased by the district. That was something I believe the PTAs purchased. I would have to double check with Mr. Broas, but I believe that's what he said. But his crew went ahead and did the installation and did this amazing work. I believe it was Anthony, one of his maintenance guys, that was behind putting this project together, and it looks fabulous. And I can't wait to be able to go and see some baseball games in the spring and sit in these bleachers, because they look really nice. And I hope we're going to be able to do something, you know, at the other schools as well. I think that's something that would be really great and uplifting for all of our different teams. On the next slide is some of our classrooms and other common areas that the students and the staff have been able to utilize from renovations, some classrooms, and I believe that is the conference area at RCK, or the guidance room at RCK. And these were part of some capital projects that we were able to work on, and really give the staff and the students a place that they can actually enjoy and get some great work and use out of. On our next slide, I would like to say thank you to all of our high schools. Each one of them are unique. Each one of them has, I like to think of them as little people, because every school in our district, in my opinion, has their own personality. And we definitely got to see that when we go through these buildings as a building tour. Not only are the buildings unique, but everyone that walks the hall, and they really make it their own. And it just makes us proud to see it. When we go through now, we know why we do it. And they all stand out on their own merits. Every school has something that I could say great about, and all three of our high schools definitely stand out. On our junior highs, each building, again, they have their own personalities, the staff and the way they interact with the kids. And it's amazing. I enjoyed spending time seeing each of them. And each of our junior high school has some opportunities that could benefit other schools in the district. And I know we had discussions how we want to see it brought across the district to all of our schools. A lot of the things that we were able to see in some of the different junior highs and high schools, and even some of the elementaries. So I want to thank all of our schools for utilizing what they have and showing us how maybe we can try and expand it to make it even better across our district. Some of our elementaries, Brinkerhoff, I'm going to do some of them. Mr. McFarland's going to do some. Brinkerhoff, it was great. We got to see all the new windows that were put in from one of our capital projects. In Fishkill Elementary, I was glad to see the new parking lot that's been needed for many years. And also Mr. Trustee McFarland was able to see the bell that's so famous that we get to ring out our sixth graders every year. It's something all of us trustees, we all get to climb those stairs our first time in that building to go see that. And it's always fun. Fishkill Plains Elementary, they got a new roof. They're getting solar. They're making strides every day. I mean, there's more work to happen, but definitely we're chipping away at it slowly. Gay Head, it's one of our bigger schools. I enjoy going there. And they're also surprisingly going to be getting some solar put on through some extra solar that we had for our project. And Evans, so much work from our capital projects have been done. We've gotten an elevator in there. We're getting solar put onto them. They've gotten a new library. They've gotten some new floors that needed to be fixed. They've definitely come a long way from when the first time I ever walked those halls as well. And then the last slide, Mr. McFarland, you take over.
Well, Kenry Road again, very, very nice looking building, unique in itself, you know. Very little more projects need to be done at Kinry Road. Vassar Road Elementary is in fairly good shape. We did come up with some other capital projects that are needed and maybe some in-house projects for some of the elementary schools, the Myers Corners, the Oak Grove, and the Sheaf Road projects. Need a little update, little maintenance, but I had the opportunity to sit with Ron Brohas, and he was very acceptable to the different concepts and ideas that we had. So hopefully moving forward, we can come up with some good capital projects to increase the quality and the safety of our schools.
That's pretty much on that. I would like to conclude that just before we did these building tours, every 5 years, the Capital Committee, the district is required every 5 years to do a building inspection of all their buildings. Mr. McFarland and I are both on the Capital Improvement Committee. And so we got access to this. I want to say it was probably days before we did the initial building tour. So it was kind of hairy-carry trying to read it all up and see what came up on this 5-year plan of what needs to be done and to try and grasp all of it. That was one of the reasons Mr. McFarland and I went back and spoke with Mr. Rojas and also Dr. Bonk. You know, we were able to get some ideas on what his thoughts were and be able to see some of the buildings again. So there's more work that needs to be done. And I would like to say that we're going to be hopefully looking deeper at each of the schools and be able to bring stuff back to you guys as a community so that you understand. Again, most of these buildings, one in 1910, 1930 was another building, and then most of them in the 50s and 60s, and I think 1 or 2 in the 80s. But these buildings for a long time didn't get the love and care that they needed. And without solid buildings, there's no place for our students to go. So we have to really take some time and really look at them and give them the love and tender care that they need. And therefore, we're going to come back and we're going to, be able to show each of the schools some stuff that might need to be looked into. And I know Mr. McFarland and I both agreed that we would definitely follow this through to the end. And I hope to bring more stuff back to the public as we find it.
And I'd just like to thank Marie Johnson, Eddie, everybody that's on the Capital Improvement Committee, Dr. Dwight Monk, Ron Brohas, for collaborating and getting together finally, that we all have one concept in mind so that we can move forward. You know, it's nice that we're all communicating together so that we can move forward to get these schools safe and comfortable for our students. Thank you, Marie.
Thank you.
Thank you very much to both of you. And I think it's important that Eddie, he's the chairman of the Capital Improvement Committee. And as Marie just stated, we have a 5-year building survey. And Eddie could possibly make some comments that there are a lot of things that have to be done. We've been very grateful to the community for doing the capital project that we have, but there's still a lot of work to be done. And maybe perhaps Eddie, you can just briefly describe what the building service has and what has to be done, what has to be addressed. I mean, that's.
Well, if we go back about, we had our 2 large capital projects. As was stated, it's required by New York State education law every 5 years for this building survey report to be done. Going back 10 years, we were able to address many items with the support of the community, but also what was mentioned, unfortunately, during the 1990s and 2000s, the district leadership at that time did not focus on, regular maintenance to buildings, the upkeep of buildings. And unfortunately, when you have something that you don't take care of for anywhere from 10 to 20 years, things are going to break down. The buildings are much older. I do believe from about 10 years ago, the building survey report came back with well over $100 million in repairs that were needed throughout all of the buildings within the district. Have to realize we're not just, 4 or 5 school buildings. We're a small city here. So thankfully, over the course of the last, 8+ years or so, we've been able to put a significant dent. But like anything else, as time goes on, other things become an issue and so forth. So with the last building condition survey, it was identified of roughly about $75 million of work that still needs to be done throughout the district. So our plan as a committee moving forward will be putting together, I don't want to get ahead of myself, but we will be presenting to the public, hopefully at some point in the spring, what our long-term goal is to meet the requirements. Some buildings are rated unsatisfactory, which we have to address. So we're going to try to put together a long-term plan to address the work that needs to be done. And hopefully, once this kind of period is I don't want to say it would happen right away, but over the course of several years, we want to put a plan together to address this. So moving forward, when that building survey does come back, we're not looking at 50, 75, $100 million worth of work. This would just be regular maintenance to make sure that the buildings are up to code. So that's our plan. It's a little premature right now because we still have a lot of information to gather, but hopefully the committee will have something to present to the full board, working with administration and obviously to the general public. So they have a true understanding of, as was stated earlier, where money goes, what it's being used for, to keep our buildings in shape, safety, quality education, being in a quality building. I think I could say for someone whose child started off in the district when none of this work was done to going from Fishkill Plains to then Van Wyck and then to John Jay with the work being done. I can say personally, I believe that when kids go into a building that looks good and feels good, I think it does help them with regards to instruction instead of being in a building where the heat's not working or the lights are not working, the toilets are not working and things of that nature. So I just hope the community will, kind of bear with us as we try to put this plan together and present it to you, for a long-term plan.
So I'd like to thank Marie, Mr. McFarland, and the Capital Improvement Committee for all the hard work that they do to address the issues. So thank you once again to all of you. With that being
And
said,
all of the senior staff and all the administration and students and families across the district.
absolutely.
If I may just interject, President Lumia, I would like to thank the entire board for all of the time that they spent in going through all of our buildings with clipboards, writing things down, examining things. It was greatly appreciated. It really was. And I know moving forward that we will work together as a team to decide exactly what needs to be addressed and how we're going to do that. And again, the fact that we're all on the same page will allow us, again, to be transparent with our community. Not only what is it going to cost if we come up with a plan, but what is going to be addressed? What's going to be addressed year 1? What's going to be addressed year 3? What's going to be addressed year 5? I think we're all on the same page moving forward, and I'd like to thank you for your collaboration.
And that's one of the key pieces, that there's no I in team. So once we build this good collaborative team together, I'm sure we'll all be able to accomplish the projects that are needed. And I want to thank the Capital Improvement Committee again. Thank Dr. Dwight Bonk for being involved with us in the committee and giving us feedback to what his needs are.
Thank you, everybody. 9.01, approval of correction action plan for external audit. Christian, I think that's you.
Okay, whereas, oh, yes, would you like me to read the recommended action before she presents it?
Christian, do you want to address first before we do the rest of the recommended action?
Can do whatever you wish.
Well, do you want to do it? Do you want to say anything?
Okay,
Sure.
Where-
So annually, oh, sorry.
Go right
Annually,
ahead.
thank you. Annually, the audit for the financial statements, for the external financial statements is done in the summertime for the previous school year. This year, we had the audit conducted and we did have a management letter comment related to timely reporting and recording of a debt service payment. It was not cash related. It was mainly a reporting issue and it was timing related. So as a result of having this management letter comment, there is a requirement for the district now to report to New York State their corrective action plan. We call it a CAP, C-A-P, and it has to be done within 120 days of the completion of the audit. So the audit was completed October 12th, and the district is looking to have the corrective action plan reviewed by the board, approved, and it will be submitted to New York State probably tomorrow, knowing Ms. Pedro and myself, and that will be taken care of. So thank you.
Thank you, Christian. Peggy, read the recommendation.
all righty. Whereas the Board of Education, having approved the external audit report as presented at the October 4th, 2021 board meeting, and whereas the Board of Education has also received the corrective action plan, now therefore be it resolved that the Board of Education does hereby approve the corrective action plan as recommended by the board's audit committee and the superintendent of schools.
Motion.
John, can I
Jim,
just?
second. I'm sorry. Jim,
Can I-
Questions?
Jim, you have a question?
Yes, I just want to make sure, and I understand that this, that the report has nothing to do with cash on hand or anything like that. It was more documents, but is there anything that we put in place to ensure that we won't get the sanction in the future?
Sure. So I was working on the annual reporting for the ST3, it's New York State reporting, in late August of 2021. At that point in time, that's when I realized that the journal entry was not correct as originally posted. So we worked with the audit team to get that done. It was related to entries or to activities from July of 2020 and August of 2020. So I can tell you as of right now that the July 2021 and August 2021 journal entries have been signed off and sent to the auditors for their review already as part of it. So yes, Mr. Spencer, we've taken care of it.
Thank you, Ms. Crandall. I was sure that you were going to take care of it. Thank you.
He's take care of everything. I know that for a fact. With that being said, although motion,
So moved.
second, Michael McFarland, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Carrie?
Aye.
Aye, okay,
Aye.
thank you. 9.02, approval of memorandum of understanding. Who's gonna address that issue, Dr. Bunk? Is Christian gonna address that, or are you gonna address it? Or doesn't need anybody to address it? Just read the resolution.
Okay. Be it resolved that the Board of Education of the Wappinger Central School District approves and authorizes the president to sign a memorandum of understanding with the Village of Fishkill regarding the Givens Lane parking lot upon the terms and conditions set forth in such memorandum of understanding, which extends the term of the existing Givens Lane parking lot lease while the Board of Education decides to negotiate a lease term or sale of the premises with the village, either of which action would be submitted to the voters in the May 2022 annual meeting, budget vote, and election. A fully executed copy shall be on file with the district clerk.
So basically, it's a parking lot that we don't use and that we have had an agreement with the Village of Fishkill to utilize it as they need parking. We're looking to continue that, and in order to do so, it's going to need to go to a vote within the community.
Okay, with that being said, motion?
So move.
Marie,
Second.
Michael, second, all those in favor?
Aye.
Discussion,
Aye.
discussion, President Lumia?
Oh, who's that? John?
Just real quickly, not only, Dr. Bonk, is it my understanding, and correct me if I'm wrong, not only is it a parking lot that we don't use, but more or less it's a parking lot that we didn't make a parking lot. The village improved district property in order that they could use it. Just so that our community understands what we're talking about.
That is correct, Trustee Morgan.
Excellent explanation, John and Dr. Bunk. Okay, all those in favor? Carrie?
Aye.
Okay, unanimous. 9.03, approval of school bus stop alarm enforcement program opt-in agreement.
Be it resolved that the Board of Education of the Wappinger Central School District approves and authorizes the superintendent of schools to sign the opt-in agreement with Dutchess County regarding school bus stop enforcement program upon the terms and conditions set forth in such opt-in agreement, a fully executed copy of which shall be on file with the district clerk.
Any discussion?
I can speak to this very briefly. I personally would like to thank County Executive Molinaro's office for choosing Wappingers as one of the first school districts to participate in this. Needless to say, we will be working with the county to ensure that we make our bus trips to and from school as safe as possible. And the stop arms with cameras will be very helpful. And Ms. Crandall, I don't know if you want to talk any more to this and more specifics. If you do, please feel free at this point.
Thank you. So Mr. Bross and I met today with a team of the installation experts. They explained how this was going to work. Remember, this is a county initiative that we're working with the county executive on. Wappingers will be one of the first to have these implemented in the county. The cameras will be on the exterior of the bus as well as the interior of the bus. Mr. Broas, if I speak out of turn, please jump in. And they are 100% free. Their maintenance is free. We have excellent abilities to be able to download the videos. We have the ability to be able to watch it live as well. And the way that it is free is because of the revenue that will be generated from the tickets issued as a result of the bus stop traffic violations that will occur. So today we had a conversation. We started to talk about implementation and training, the level of training that the staff who will be actually installing these cameras have is phenomenal, and we're really looking forward to it.
I think it's a win-win situation. Eddie?
I just want to just thank you to Ms. Crandall and Mr. Bross for staying on top of this with the county executive's office, as well as Dr. Bonk's input. This is something we've been talking about for quite some time, and I'm glad to see that it was finally put in place and going to be utilized. It's unfortunate, but we still have some very, I'll use the word poor drivers within our community. This continues to be an issue of drivers in the morning, especially not stopping. So hopefully this will help curtail this problem moving forward. So thank you to everybody involved and who stayed on top of this. This is definitely a huge benefit to our district, just based on the size of our fleet and the 120 plus miles of road that our drivers are on. So thank you to everybody.
Again, it's important. It's free to the district. So thank you to everybody. All right, motion.
So moved.
Marie, second.
Second.
Becky, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Unanimous. 9.04, approval of Second Amendment to a Moresco Energy Service Agreement.
Whereas the Wappinger Central School District Board of Education Board, under an Energy Services Agreement, ESA, dated June 19th, 2018, contracted with Amoresco to identify and install energy-efficient, renewable energy and distributed generation measures project in order to generate guaranteed energy cost savings. And whereas after New York State Education Department's review and approval of the ESA, the scope of the project identified in the original ESA was revised, resulting in an overall reduction in the cost of the project and the amount of guaranteed savings. Whereas Amoresco and the district entered into a First Amendment to the ESA proposed to conform to the NYSED approval of the project, which was approved by the board on November 18th, 2019. And whereas the scope of the project identified in the original ESA was again revised, resulting in a reduction in size of the proposed PV system for Ketchum High School due to the addition of new roofing equipment. Whereas Amoresco and the district entered into a Second Amendment to the ESA proposed to maintain overall solar PV system sizing set forth in the initial ESA by adding solar PV array to include Fishkill Plains Elementary School and Gay Head Elementary School. Now, therefore, be it resolved that the Wappinger Central School District Board of Education does hereby approve the Second Amendment to the Energy Services Agreement between Amoresco and the district. Be it further resolved that the Board of Education does hereby authorize the superintendent of schools to execute all documents concerning the Second Amendment.
Discussion? Motion? Marie, second, Eddie? You have a question or you second,
Yeah,
second, Eddie, second, all those in favor?
Aye.
Unanimous? Like, thank you. 9.05, letter submitted by the Legislative Action Committee. I'm sorry.
Okay, I'm sorry. I guess I have an outdated agenda because I had the first reading of policies next. I'm sorry. You must have an updated one.
Well, maybe, Berta, do I have the right one? 9.05, the letter?
Yes.
Okay,
So
sorry.
That's the next thing on the agenda. All right. Comments from any board member?
Okay, I guess I'll start this, John.
Okay, good. Marie.
As was shown in public comment earlier, there was quite a response to the letter that the Legislative Action Committee put forth. I'd like to maybe emphasize a little more on it. This isn't something saying that we don't know when this mandate could or will happen. It's just expressing that there might not be enough information yet and that parents should have a bigger say in it. It shouldn't be something that's dictated. And I get that there's a lot of different points of view on vaccines. I'll be the first to say it, and I'll say it publicly. I am vaccinated, but I think it's a parent's choice to vaccinate their child. That's my personal opinion. It's not that of the board or the district. It is my personal opinion. That being said, I think that there's a lot of discussions that need to happen between a parent and a pediatrician, family doctor, whichever you happen to go through for your child. I think that is where the discussion should be at, and not that somebody up in Albany is going to say you have to do this or your child's not getting an education in our school system. We've had enough happen with these children, in my opinion, that to add on something of this, if a parent is that concerned or has that many questions, I don't think that that's a stance. And personally, I would like to see more data before, everybody goes with the whole polio, where would we be without the polio vaccine? Not for nothing, polio came out in 1916, where it first started affecting the United States, but the polio vaccine did not actually get approved fully till 1963. So there was a lot of trials and errors with that vaccine. It went through about 5 or 6 different ones before anything got fully approved. So it's been less than 2 years on this vaccine. And I just don't know if mandating for children is where we want to go. And I just think that letting our governor know that we want more information before she pulls that trigger on something that you're putting into a person's body needs to happen between the family and the doctor, and not between the government and you don't get an education. That's my personal opinion, and I'm just expressing it.
Any other comments from the board? Peggy?
Okay, first of all, I'm a little concerned about this letter from the Legislative Action Committee, looking at the charter and the goals that we set forth last July. I assume after my email discussion with Mr. Sloshower, that what he's assuming that this is under the goal to investigate any laws, regulations, etc., relating to school reopening in September. Since this was set forth in July, it's already past September, and this whole letter is about hypothetical laws and regulations that have not even been proposed. So I don't understand how this came under the jurisdiction of the goals set forth for the Legislative Action Committee.
I agree.
Eddie?
Peggy.
Eddie?
The vaccine was in conversation over the summer as a possible reopening for kids to come back in September. Because that was pushed off by the CDC and by the FDA, in my opinion, it still falls under that particular goal. We had no control and not knowing. The goal was to address any potential mandates or legislation that would be coming that would affect the reopening of schools, i.e. students being allowed back in buildings, and what that process would be. That's a bit of a semantic to me. The purpose of this letter is not a anti-vaccination or a pro-vaccination. What this letter is suggesting is that any decision that when it comes to vaccinations should be done by the parent, not by Albany or any other regulatory agency that will either regulate, mandate, or legislate and put into a law. That is all this letter does. So we're not taking or asking for a position one way or the other. Now, if the state legislature or the governor passes a regulation or they put it into law, that's a completely different story and a different conversation. So we're not taking a pro or anti-vaccination. All this letter is conveying to the governor is that if it is the will of the board that we believe, or a majority of the board believes, that any vaccination decision should be made by a parent and or a parent in conjunction with their doctor. That is all.
Also, just to let everyone understand,
Wait a minute, Marie.
Hollyman has proposed, has sent in a proposal. They just have not given it a bill number yet because they're not in session, but it has been proposed.
Peggy?
I have a question.
I think
Jim,
there's a,
Keith.
okay, I think there's a lack of little confusion here about what the purpose of vaccination is. Vaccination for a communicable disease is only effective if almost everybody has it. We just heard about the death of former Secretary of State Colin Powell. He was fully vaccinated, but he was undergoing treatment for multiple myeloma. Yeah, right. And therefore his immune system was compromised. No vaccination is completely effective. All the vaccinations which our children get are mandated by the schools are because these are communicable diseases, and they are spread by people, and therefore they need to be, to prevent it from happening, you need to do this kind of attempt. This has been going on since colonial times with quarantines and with General George Washington requiring that his troops have smallpox vaccination so that it would not spread among the troops. Now, vaccination programs in the United States have been pretty much done, even if people, I know people say, a lot of people have COVID and they recover and they're just fine. That was true with almost all of the diseases that I have vaccinations for. My children had chickenpox, no problem. I had measles, mumps, and rubella. It was uncomfortable, but I got over it without long-term effects. My mother and my father-in-law had diphtheria. They also recovered. Some people died, a minority, and some people had long-term effects, again, a minority. But there were children who had severe problems from measles, from mumps, from rubella if their mothers had it. Some people, even polio, had a mortality and a morbidity rate similar to COVID. Most people who got polio recovered with no problems. Some were paralyzed. A tiny number died. The reason we have vaccinations and require them is to protect everybody else around them. If you have some people vaccinated and some not, every child who comes to our school is vulnerable. Even if they only get a mild case, they may take it home to an older person who might get the disease and die, or to a younger brother or sister. And little children, especially those who can't be vaccinated yet, and pregnant women are especially vulnerable to COVID, and also elderly people and people with other morbidities and immune compromised
Peggy,
systems.
what does this have
So
to do
that
with
is the
parents'
part.
choice?
Let it finish, please.
That is the
Thank you. I
purpose
was
of
wondering if that was a
vaccination
second
requirements. It's
question or
not a
concern.
question of parental. When you say parental choice, you're saying that you're leaving the other people, the other children, vulnerable to it being spread.
Jim,
So,
you're next.
Peggy, is this
No
your
evidence
second
that this
question or
part-
concern?
You're
I
next,
think I
Keith
was next.
and John. Jim,
I think it was-
Okay, Carrie has a question too. Carrie has a
okay, then
question.
Carrie, okay. Jim, Keith, John, and Carrie. Go ahead, Jim.
This question is for the Legislative Action Committee. Are you guys proposing this letter just for this one vaccine or all vaccines? Is it parental choice for just this one, or is it
This
parental
one,
choice-
because it's not, it hasn't been, it's just come out. And it's not fully approved for all the age groups. Hollyman has already.
Moderna
proposed it.
they just pulled Moderna, okay, for approval because of side effects. They want to
Right,
do
they're
more
looking at the
research.
myocarditis. They're
Right.
looking at the myocarditis in the young men. And I'm gonna wait for my question to address
Yeah.
this, but I certainly would like
Yeah,
to. Jim,
because-
does that
because
answer your
Please,
question?
please, guys,
Yeah,
let's
because
get
I
going.
had
Jim,
the
please
second
complete your
part to it.
sentence.
I asked that just that,
No, Jim, that wasn't our goal. Our goal was specific to this, of it being a parental decision specifically for COVID-19 vaccinations. No one on the committee is a doctor or anything. We took the position of it being up to a parent in consultation with their medical professional who they use, if that's who they want to, rely on for information, and to make a decision.
Okay,
That's simple. That was it.
Thank
Keith,
you.
you're next.
I have a few questions. I mean,
Wait a minute, Peggy. Let people speak first.
yeah, thanks for writing the letter and looking forward. But I know we have written some letters to Albany in the past. Have we been successful with any of those requests that the school district, on behalf of the school district, have written to Albany? Have they
Yes,
responded
the
or?
HPV vaccine, they were successful.
Oh, okay. So in the case of this once Albany mandates a policy, say they mandate a policy, what would be what do you think would be our responsibility once, if it is, hypothetically, if it is mandated, what will be the board's and the school district responsibility once that comes down?
If it's a law, we have to,
follow
if it's a law, we have to follow it. It's not a law
Okay,
now.
I'm just asking so everyone could be.
Yeah.
And my final question is, what do you think will be more effective in terms of writing a letter? Do you think one letter from a school board or multiple school boards, or do you think it would be more effective if the governor received hundreds, or in this case, thousands of letters from our community and other communities from their
As far as we know,
constituents?
she's received other letters from other school districts in the state.
Yes.
Okay, but like you said, nothing has come down. I'm just saying that I know we had talked about this in the past, and we was gonna rely on our medical department to really take a look at this and make that decision, compared to the 9 or 8 of us with no medical degree. I know we're speaking on
Keith, I
behalf
understand
of
what
the
you're saying, but
community,
we're not
but I
taking a
think it
medical
would be more
position.
effective
We're leaving
that
it as
you
a
have multiple
parental
letters going
decision.
up to Albany instead of one letter from a school district.
John Morgan.
Other
no,
school
excuse me,
districts
Peggy.
will follow or they won't
Wait.
follow.
John, you next, please.
Thank you, John. The first thing that I wanted to bring up, because I think this theme was echoed several times earlier this evening during the public comment period, and also Trustee Kellen just talked about schools requiring vaccines. And I think this goes in lines with what Keith and Eddie just said. The Wappinger Central School District did not set a policy that any vaccines were required. The state passed a law, and the school district is required to follow that law. And Peggy referenced, the school setting a policy. I'll speak for myself, but I don't think there's anybody on this board that seeks to set a policy that requires vaccination. And I just want to make sure that I'm clear about that if that were to come forward, I would oppose that, because I don't think it's the school board's place to do that. I also think that Keith raises an excellent point, that if there are people, and we know that there are because we heard from them earlier this evening, that oppose any requirement on behalf of the governor, that they should, given that the letter that they accessed by looking at the agenda has an address on it, my 2 cents would be write directly to the governor, just like you can write directly to the New York State Department of Health in Corning Tower at the Empire State Plaza. And then, the only other thing that I would say specifically regarding the letter as drafted, should this be addressed to the governor or to the Department of Health? Number one, and that doesn't necessarily need to be answered right now, but that's a question that I have. Number two, the Pfizer vaccine, I believe, but it may be emergency use, is already approved for people 12 through 15. I think that the letter is convoluted in terms of how it addresses where it stands right now. And I think a more simple stating of that that a mandate is opposed and that parental decision is supported, would make the letter much clearer. Earlier, Eddie, Trustee Sloshower said, it's simply this. And I think if the letter said, in effect, what Eddie said, it was simply this, I think our discussion would be a lot more straightforward. Thank you.
John, just to answer your two questions. One, this is it's a rough draft. The letter goes to the governor, the Department of Health. It goes to all the legislatures. So there's about 12 people that get CC'd on this. Dutchess County, BOCES, School Boards Association, the head of the for Education Department in Albany. So there's a lot more names that get CC'd on this, so it's not just specifically to the governor. And also, it's a letter put forth to the board, and what has been done in the past, if the board so desires, one of two options, it could either go back to committee with recommendations and suggestions from board members, or what we have done in the past, we've actually sat here and tweaked the letter right here during the discussion portion of the agenda item. So every single, everything in here, it's not edged in stone. You make a couple of excellent suggestions. It can always be tweaked. So again,
A motion for 5 more minutes.
The motion to make
Second it.
5 more minutes.
Mhm.
But we have comments from Peggy, and also before we hear Peggy, we want to hear Carrie.
I just wanted to answer your question.
Make a motion for 10 minutes.
Yes, I second the motion from
All those
Mr.
in
Lumia
favor?
for
in
more
favor?
time, for more time.
Go ahead,
All right,
Peggy,
I
no,
wanted to-
Peggy, I'm sorry, Peggy. Before
Okay, that's all right. You were right, perfectly right, Mr. Lumia, to extend the time.
Okay, Carrie, you're next, then Mrs. Collins, then Peggy.
I can defer to Peggy. She was about to talk. I don't
Okay,
mind
go
waiting.
ahead, Peggy, go ahead.
Thank you, Mrs. Cahill. All right, what I was saying, as Mr. Sloshower himself said, we are not medical experts, and we should not be sending letters giving medical advice. Now, whether it is COVID, I do not know if COVID's vaccine is at a point where they would be mandating it, whether they should be or should not, because I'm not a medical expert. I don't think anyone on this board is. But I do not feel that we should be offering medical opinions. We should be dealing with education. That's what we were elected to do. Furthermore, the Legislative Action Committee, I feel, did not follow the directions of the board by going into medical issues which were not related to the reopening of school this past September. These goals each year are set for 1 year, and that means July 1st through June 30th. And obviously, the reopening of school in September referred to this past September, which is already passed. And no one has said anything about affecting the reopening of school last month.
Carrie, you want to wait till Mr. McFarland, or you want to address? Go ahead, Carrie. Carrie?
Mr. McFarland can go, John.
Go ahead, Mr. McFarland. Mike? You have to unmute yourself.
I mean, the only comment I have is I don't feel that the board should be writing this letter in its content. So if we change up the letter maybe or something, but I don't agree with the letter and its contents.
Okay, Carrie? Wait a minute, Jim, let Carrie speak.
Hi, guys. So I think what we were trying to do was be proactive, right? Maybe head off the legislation at the pass. Why? Because with precedent, it seemed that this has been done successfully before, right? So we do have an unprecedented virus, so on and so forth. Additionally, precedent setting, very recently, countless school boards in our state have done the very same thing. So often a level of noise, creating some kind of, attention to a matter, that type of thing. Additionally, as elected officials, right, we just heard our public. I'm not sure that we exceeded the 30 minutes, but I actually heard one dissenting opinion. I heard every single public comment directed at supporting the letter to proactively head off a vaccine mandate and defer the decision to the parents. Now, myself, I will not speak for the other Legislative Action Committee members. I am not a doctor. I know they're not. This was not an attempt at perpetrating an MD. In this case, I did what I would do in any case where the state was going to mandate something and not give deference to parents. I would write a letter to head off that mandate, whatever it is. If they told me that I had to force my child to eat pancakes every day or use a certain kind of soap, I would write the very same letter. Now, with respect to Peggy's comment concerning the vaccines prior to this one and throughout history, I never, ceased to vaccinate my children. I went on down the list. I don't recall any of those vaccines breaking onto the scene and causing death and injury to the young population such as this one has. What we're dealing with here is maybe trying to pump the brakes because what we have is, we have a new technology, right? It's questionable. It's quickly manifesting a lot of scenarios and dangers that kind of have parents just scratching their head. They have a right to be concerned, and they are the primary decision makers for their kids. Again, we're the elected representatives. I think that we need to pay attention to what people are concerned about. And I certainly am not trying to give medical advice, but I certainly am advocating for parental rights, right? I mean, these are our children. We should have a right to make that decision. The unbiased medical opinion is something that I would love to hear, right? So when you mention, a medical professional giving us an opinion, I think that's awesome. I would love it to be an unbiased medical opinion. Finally, what I'd like to say is that, benefit risk is how medicine is practiced, right? It's benefit versus risk. When you consider the fact, notwithstanding what Peggy said, she's right, the herd immunity, unbelievably, I mean, there's no way to shoot holes in that. That's absolutely true. But there's some things we're not considering, i.e. Antibodies. I think this is where the credibility is lacking. I think that if we were to test the population, those unvaccinated, why don't we start considering those things? Also, there's therapies now. We're right there at the doorstep of lots of therapeutics. So we're not in a crisis situation anymore. We're not in a pandemic. A lot of things have changed. We're not in a dire set of circumstances. We're dealing with a population that, again, like Peggy said, we want to get that herd immunity. So we don't want this particular population to affect, the herd. However, this particular population does not send that disease out like, the rest of us, right? We know that it's not as communicable through these young people. And then if we just specifically consider their reaction to the virus, they're not dying. They're not ending up in the hospital. What type of symptoms are they even experiencing? So I just think it's not our place to practice medicine. It's not our place to, do these things, but it's also not the state's place to mandate and practice medicine. So hopefully I gave, the respect and deference to everyone. And again, for the LAC, we're just trying to proactively, give that deference back to the parents and do what many, many boards in our state are doing right now.
Are there any other comments? Jim? Unmute yourself.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. President. And I thank all the board members for their comments. I just, one last comment for me is it's a little, I can't get into the governor's mind to draft a letter on what the governor may do or what the legislative body in Albany may do. So I would be, I would hesitate to do that in any form. That's first of all. But more importantly for me is I think that the Legislative Action Committee should adhere to the charter and the rules set by the board. And if this is outside the scope of the charter, then that's a slippery slope. I mean, being proactive, we should be very careful and adhere to the charter.
Look, I like to address, unless there's other comments, I'd like to make a comment myself. Are there any other comments? I'd like to make a comment if you don't mind. None of us on the board are medical professionals as to whether anyone should get vaccinated or not. Our personal feelings about mandates should not be in conflict with what the board's powers and duties are. The school law book that we are provided when we became board members defines our powers and duties. The law book states the school boards, and I got this right from the book, are responsible for the admission, instruction, discipline, grading, and appropriate classification of students attending public schools, for the employment and management of necessary professionals and support staff, and for purchasing, leasing, maintaining, and ensuring school buildings, properties, equipment, and supplies. Moreover, it is our duty to hire the superintendent as well as adopt budgets. Nowhere in the powers and duties does it say that it's our responsibility to write letters to our elected officials. I have written letters as an individual with respect to pending legislation, and I urge individuals, members to do the same. No board has the expertise or the authority to mandate vaccines. We can't. Just as medical professionals require certain vaccines be administered prior to attending our schools, so also responsibility for mandating any vaccine, COVID vaccine, should be left to medical professionals. As such, I'm not in favor of sending a letter to our governor. Look, we're not in the business of looking at whether kids should get vaccines or not. We're in the business of what is our responsibility as board members. And as far as I'm concerned, that is not one of our responsibilities. And I'm against the letter. Anyway, we're over time. Somebody make a motion one way or the other, what to either accept.
Well, this wasn't up for a vote to sign. It was up for discussion. And then if there was any questions, we could always relook at rewriting it, is what that was.
I'll make a motion. Does anybody want to send it back to the Legislative Action Committee for rewriting?
No.
Of all those in favor of rewriting, please raise your hands. 1, 2, to rewriting, 2.
If you're rewriting, that would come from having recommendations from board members if they wanted it to be. You're saying you bring it back to rewrite it in what form? So as Mr. McFarland mentioned earlier, if he had an issue with language or whatever, then it would have to be if the board is willing to send it back to committee, it would be with, some of you may have some recommendations to tweak it if it's a direction you want to go. If it's not, then the board can make a decision that this is not something it wants the committee to tweak or pursue, and the committee moves on to its next topic. So
I have a recommendation in terms of, I know we're saying not to send a letter or to send a letter, but how about, as mentioned by Trustee Morgan and others, is that instead of the school board writing a letter, reach out to the parents on both sides that they for or not for the mandate, if there will be a mandate, and to send a letter to Albany, to send a letter to the governor themselves. That's gonna hold more weight. That's gonna open up the governor's eyes from thousands of letters compared to 20 letters from 20 school boards.
I don't think it's for us to tell the public what.
No, I'm not saying tell the public what to do.
Or not.
So we are doing that, because if we send a letter, we're speaking on behalf of the public.
For the public, right?
Yeah.
I understand that, but I'm just saying it's not the committee to tell people. That's just a given, and I'm sure people have done it. The decision of the board would be, it's a letter for discussion. The question is, this is what was submitted from the committee. The question now is the direction from the full board.
So why don't you state the letter to the governor saying that in this area, we have parents that are concerned. We have parents that are concerned. We have parents that are concerned. So that way you're neutral. You're not for or against.
We're not for, again, Keith, we're not, the committee is not for or against. All the committee is trying to convey is a parental right. That's it. We're not pro-vaccine or anti-vaccine stance. That's not what we're taking.
I'd like to make a motion.
That's all. So it's either we let it go.
I'd like to make a motion to reject the letter
with recommendations from the board. That's all.
Okay,
I'd like to
second,
make a motion to reject the letter.
second.
All those in favor?
Can you read them out for me, Mr. Lumia, please? All in favor of rejecting the letter?
Lumia, Mr. Spencer, Mr. Odoms, Mr. McFarland, and Ms. Peggy Kelland.
As
And
written,
Mr. Morgan.
as written.
As written.
Right. All those for the letter? Eddie and Marie and Carrie, I assume Carrie?
Oh, yeah, no, I'm for it.
All right, case, okay, with that being said, next item on the agenda.
Can I make a motion? I would like to make a motion. Would like the letter to go back to committee to be revised with board member recommendations.
There's no second. No,
Wait, hold on, wait. So what you're saying that you will take recommendations from the entire board to send the letter to bring
The letter
back for a vote?
The letter would be revised based on recommendations from the board if they wish to pursue that. If the majority of the board is not in favor of any language to the governor, then my motion is, it's moot.
With the
If
letter
there are enough
address,
board members that feel that it's a parental choice, but have some issues with the specific language, the way it's currently written, and would like it changed with some recommendations, that would be the motion.
I thought we
Well,
already,
I would say this. I'm sorry, go ahead.
I thought
trustee
we already voted on this.
We'd already voted on
did.
this.
That's it, it's done.
Mr. Lumia, yeah, I just wanted to say that the question was whether parental choice is the right way to deal with vaccines. We are not medical professionals. And you're saying that we should, you're just saying that, your whole point of the letter was apparently that it should be parental choice. But we're not saying we're in favor of parental choice. We're saying we're not qualified to make that decision, whether it should be a parental choice or the government's choice. Because we're not there are some times when you need to make a decision and make a mandate on vaccines. George
Again.
Washington did the revolution for his troops.
We already voted on this.
Peggy, we're going in circles on this.
Right.
You have your points of view. I have my points of view. We don't seem to be on the same page when it comes to a parental right. Okay, it's up to a parent to take care of their own child. That's my opinion. You have a different opinion. It's fine. It's whatever the will of the board is.
I think the board already voted.
John,
on it.
can I ask one more
And that's
question
fine.
about
If nobody
enrollment?
wants to accept the motion, so be it.
I'm sorry, one last comment, Carrie?
No,
I
I just
think,
had a
Abby.
quick question. How much would a change, as in a decrease in enrollment, have to be in order to affect state aid?
None. I don't think this is an issue, state aid or not. It's, as I said, it's not the board's responsibility on this issue. We have, our duties are not sending letters to regarding vaccines. That's not
I
our
understand.
job. That's
I'm just,
not our
it's cause
job.
and effect, John. It's cause and
know.
effect.
I-
That's all
well,
I'm thinking. If
I'm
parents-
sure it'll affect what do you call it? Aid, but that's another issue. So, but the motion was made.
It's a big issue, John. If 5,000 kids are out of the district, that's an issue.
I don't think that's gonna happen, Eddie, but that's my opinion. Case
I
closed.
don't, listen,
Now, look.
I don't know. Who knows?
Well, look, we'll see. The motion was made, was second, was approved.
That's fine.
Let's go to first reading, 9.06, first reading policies, please. The silent reading.
All
If
right,
anybody-
yep.
I'm sorry, if anybody has any question on any of those policies, please address them to our chairman, Ms. Kellen, okay? Not 10.01. Board members may request additional agenda items, discussion items, or request for information. Are there any addition to the agenda? Seeing none. 11.01, comments from the public. Alberta?
Okay, hold on one second. Okay. I have a comment from Carmine Martuno. Topic is 9.05, letter submitted by Legislative Action Committee. My wife and I are in support of this letter and oppose mandatory vaccination for COVID-19. Everyone knows that those vaccinated with these vaccinations that are not approved by the FDA still get COVID-19. The decision to provide medical care to a child is the sole responsibility of their parents. We expect the school board to support this letter and inform Hochul that the next steps will be legal action.
Any other comments?
Yes, I have two more. It's loading. Hold on one second. This comment is from Gina Nadu. Topic is vaccinations. It is not right to force anyone to get the vaccination. It is my child's choice not to receive the vaccination for whatever reason it is. No one can tell anyone what to put in their body. Vaccinated people are still getting the virus and spreading it. And the last comment is from Dr. Gordon Cook. His topic is COVID response in WCSD. The district's response to the current pandemic situation is abysmal. The district has a stated goal of working towards a return of normal in-person education, but the district's actions are counterproductive to that end. COVID is currently spreading through the school buildings at twice the rate of the general public on average. The district has experienced about 150% increase in spread of COVID every week since the start of the school year. Ketchum High School has experienced especially troubling spread. Yet we see no response from the district to deal with this. Obviously, something is not working, but there is no effort to curb the spread of COVID in our schools. Why has the school not adopted any of the mitigations recommended by the Education Department, the Health Department, or the CDC? Why has the district not started weekly screening testing of unvaccinated teachers? This is a mandatory requirement from the State Health Department, announced prior to the start of school, yet the school district has not begun testing yet. When will the district begin meeting the minimum mandatory requirements? At the start of the school year, Dr. Bonk toted what he called, quote unquote, low spread of COVID in the first weeks of school. At that time, the number of cases was already higher than expected in our county and well beyond the health department's definition of, quote, higher rate of spread, close quote. If the district is not using the standard definitions for low or high spread, then what is the district's criteria for considering COVID to be anything other than low? How bad does it need to be before the district will acknowledge the COVID is spreading at a high rate among the school population? Do we have to wait for a student death before the administration will label a high amount of COVID, or will it take multiple deaths? I hope I am exaggerating to make the point. If the district is not using the standard definition for high spread within the school, then what criteria is the school administration using? If you think we are doing fine now, what is your idea of what bad looks like? And that's the end of public comment.
Thank you very much for the comments. Make a motion to adjourn the meeting. Mike, second, all in favor? Carrie, I assume you're in favor. Thank you very much.